as well. Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. I hope you have had an awesome day. I know I've had a great day. It's just such a blessing to be in service and connected to so many of you. I'm going to start right here by saying if there's anything that I can ever do to make your life more blessed and it's within my ability to do so, please reach out to me. I also love connecting individuals together. So if you're looking for help in some direction or you need to be connected to a great individual like Dr. Gilles, then just please let me know. I 100% believe what Michael Neal talks about, and he says you can ask anyone for anything as long as you don't buy into your thinking about what it would mean if they said no. So I made a bunch of videos today. Actually, Gilles is going to be getting one asking certain individuals, like big leaders, if they'll do a video testimonial for me for a new web page that I'm making, a speaker web page. And in my old way, maybe I would get caught up in like they're too busy or what are they going to say? And I'm like, no, it doesn't, like their no means nothing to me other than I didn't get what I wanted, but that's not going to stop me at the very beginning from asking. So Dr. Lamarche, thanks for joining me today.
Happy to join you. You know what? I'm listening to you talk, and I was on the phone yesterday for about 3/4 an hour with a great friend, Mark Victor Hansen. Most people know his name from Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I learned something from Mark years and years ago. You have to ASK to GET. You got to ask to get. And sometimes people will say no, and often they'll say yes. What a concept. You got to ask to get. So, yeah, before we get into our talk, I thought I'd segue off what you just said because I was on the phone with Mark for a long time yesterday talking about something, and it just reminded me of that experience, that lesson that I learned from him 30 years ago or more.
You know, I mean, obviously he's an unbelievable humanitarian and leader and entrepreneur, and I've read many of his books, and I gotta say my favorite one is The Aladdin Factor.
Oh, great book that he wrote with Jack Canfield.
Yes.
Yeah.
What an awesome book. And for those of you who want to do better on your ASK so you can GET, I would highly recommend that you check out The Aladdin Factor. Just a really great book to be able to look at your thinking when it comes to asking, but also just to give you some phenomenal strategies and some really great stories that I think Mark Victor Hansen is one of the best storytellers ever.
And the book was written like 20 years ago, and it's still so perfect, right on for the life that anybody's living today.
Yeah, still so spot on. So let's jump into purpose. So if you had joined us a few weeks ago, we started into this topic and then we had some technical difficulties. And so if we can run through the first two, you shared your mission statement with us as well as your morning routine. Like, let's go through those and then we'll pick up number 3.
Sure. So your question was, what are 3 ways that you actually stay on purpose, that you can get to live a purposeful life? I learned years ago that to be purposeful required that you have a clarity on what your purpose really is. So your purpose is never about making money. It can never be about making money. That's not a purpose. Serving people is a purpose. Money is an outcome if you serve well. And so I was able to write a draft purpose statement. It got tweaked. I conversed with different friends and different mentors along the way. And I got it, basically brought down to a very simple statement that I've repeated many, many times per day sometimes. So at least once a day, but many times, some days, depending on where I'm at in my life. But mine is, I pledge my life to my greatest expression of love and service for the benefit of humanity. And that came from a segue of my number one mentor was Dr. James W. Parker. So Dr. Jim Parker, that many of you have heard his name if you've never met him. But he always said his purpose statement was loving service - my first technique. So if you ever, make a trip and you go to Dallas and you go to Parker University, you'll see a statue of Dr. Jim, and the statement on the plaque underneath it is loving service, my first technique. And when I got to understand that, I was like, that should be a purpose for everybody. I mean, we should all be focused on purpose because, that's when you tap into your gifts, your talents. You get to use them when you're on purpose. So obviously, I recite my purpose statement every day, but not the first words that I input into my brain. So I'll start with my daily routine and where the purpose statement fits in, but just remember the purpose statement. I pledge my life. Pretty powerful statement, right? I pledge my life,
Absolutely.
my greatest expression of love and service for the benefit of humanity. So every day I work at expressing love and service that will benefit other people. And by doing that, it obviously benefits me because I get to live a purposeful life. So I will tell you that my morning ritual, if you do not have a morning
Can I
ritual.
stop you for just 1 second? I want to speed bump something that you said. And the first law of learning is repetition. So I've probably heard you talk about Dr. Parker 100 times and sharing that, right? But this time it sunk in about like, it's my first technique. And the reason I want to speed bump is I think it's really easy to think like, I don't want to keep repeating myself. I don't want to keep repeating myself. I don't want to keep repeating myself. But I think it's really important to know that we all may hear each other, but there's certain things that are going to land at certain points in our lives. And so continuing to have those mantras and continuing to show up with your message day after day after day, your purpose day after day after day, you never know if the person who you spoke to a week ago, if today's the day it's going to land.
They're just going to get it.
Yeah. I
Right?
just think it's so like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've heard it a million times, but this time, like my first technique, I love that. Like always lead with love, always lead with service. So thanks for saying it again for the 101th time.
You're welcome. Interesting. I'll just turn my computer briefly because I think you'll be able to see it. But if you look at that frame with that right there, that white.
Oh,
image,
yeah.
So to the right, that's Dr. Parker's picture at the bottom. And those are actually the Parker principles. Those 13 principles have sat on my desk, or now on the back of my desk. I'm in my home study at home, obviously, right now, for 44 years. So I've had that frame, those 13 principles in that frame for 44 years. When I was in practice, they sat on the corner of my desk, and I read them every single morning when I walked into my office. You said repetition. Repetition creates synaptic connections that lead to neurological pathways that create habits, period. If you've read any of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work and all the research he has done, that's what he's actually shown. So having a morning ritual fits into that. It's repetitive. So I talk to some people, well, I hate rituals. It's boring. It's always the same thing. I just want to be experiencing something new. Well, guess what? If you have a ritual that you do on a regular basis, you open yourself up to great new experiences because the ritual is what's preparing you to be open. The ritual is what's creating that not, I was going to say a void, not a void, a vacuum for you to take more in. So if your ritual is unplanned, your ritual is probably setting an alarm clock when you go to bed at night, at whatever time you think you want to wake up. Some of you set it 15 minutes earlier because you already know that you're going to hit the snooze button 2 or 3 times. Well, guess what? That's a freaking ritual. You've actually chosen a ritual.
Yeah.
And you've chosen a ritual that's not going to enhance your life. It's not a ritual that's going to cause you to blossom and truly tap in to the gifts, talents that you've actually been given. So I created a ritual that works for me. All rituals are different, so I can just share my personal experience, but that's why I have a ritual. And when I don't follow my ritual, my results of joy, sharing love, sharing happiness are not as good. I can just tell you. I know the difference.
Yeah.
So my morning ritual starts really the night before, where the last words that I consciously input into my brain before I fall asleep. Remember, I said consciously. I'm going to choose to consciously input this, and then everything else that comes after that is unconscious. Whether I immediately fall asleep or whether I have other thoughts of something else, the last thoughts I consciously put into my brain is, when I awaken in the morning, I will greet this day with love in my heart. Every person, every situation, every circumstance, because I choose to make my life sacred. So those are the last words I consciously input into my brain. And they are almost identical to the words that I consciously input when I awaken in the morning. So I might wake up like all of you, and I might stretch a little bit and go, oh man, it's morning already, and etc., whatever it might be. And then I'm going to consciously stop and say, today, I greet this day with love in my heart. Every person, every situation, every circumstance, because I choose to make my life sacred. So I'm making that choice, right? And I may repeat that a few times until I actually feel it here. Most of the time, I only say it once, and I feel it because I've been doing it so many years. I love it. I'm happy. I want to wake up. I want to get to task. I want to help people. I want to do whatever's going to show up today. But there are a few days in my life, like anybody else, maybe a few days a year, where I lay there and I might repeat it 3 or 4 times. And I know, without a doubt, I'm fully responsible to create that feeling before I rise. Because if I don't, the chance of me experiencing it that day are slim. So I'll repeat it until I experience it, that feeling that I know this is who I am, that's how I'm going to rise. And then as I get out of bed, turn on my side, I get out of bed, and as my feet hit the ground, I just say thank you. Thank you for another day. Thank you for allowing me to take a nice deep breath and awaken.
I love that, like, you set the context, and that you've set the ritual for the purpose, right? Of I'll keep saying it until I catch up with what my words are, because that's my purpose, that's my ritual, that's my commitment, that's my come from, is I want to greet this day with love in my heart.
That's my commitment to myself.
Yeah, maybe I don't feel that way yet, but I can get myself there before I put my feet on the ground. I love that.
Exactly. So you can feel it, right? And I carry a gratitude stone in my right hand pocket, my pants. I have for, I don't know, a long, long time. And I usually carry a handful of gratitude stones, usually in my left. I'm usually in a suit or in a sports jacket. There was a thought of black ice in Atlanta today. So I texted my team last night and I said, I am requesting that you all work from home today, and I will do the same thing. Some of them have to drive further. I said, no, we're taking a chance with black ice. So none of them know how to drive. None of them know how to drive with cold weather. As far as they haven't lived in Alaska like you do, they haven't lived in Northern Canada like I have, but black ice really sucks. So I work from home today, so I'm just a little bit more casual. But, even on my desk at home, I've got a jar of gratitude stones. On my desk at the office, I got a huge jar of gratitude stones. And I hand them out all over the place. Yesterday, I was visiting an alumnus of Life University who had been one of our assembly speakers. I hadn't visited her practice. She has a beautiful story to tell. So I just went to visit, and I spent literally over an hour, because of a conflict in scheduling, over an hour just observing the mechanics of the practice in the reception room. But more importantly, the amount of love, attention to detail, and intention to serve from her 2 front desk CAs. And I would walk up and down the hallway, and I would just observe the doctor adjusting a child. And in that short period, she saw a lot of people. Like, it was a busy, busy, busy practice. And I was like, this girl got up this morning and she got herself ready to serve. And so for those of you who think that having a morning ritual is going to be boring, I guarantee you, find the one that suits you, that fits you, that brings you to a level of being excited about waking up, and it will always serve you. It will never be boring. My ritual has not changed in probably 30 plus years. Yes, I went from being, a busy, active practice to now working in an administrative role. And so there may be little pieces that change, but as far as preparing myself to serve has not changed in over 30 years. So that preparation is imperative. So then I go in, brush my teeth, wash my face, whatever I have to do, and then come downstairs to my study. So sometimes I shift my ritual, the same thing, but not necessarily in the same order. Sometimes I go directly into our little home gym. You stayed at our house, so we've got a great, nice little home gym, and I will lay there and do a meditation right away. I'll lay on a Dena roll, do my spinal hygiene, exercise while I actually meditate, and then I'll come downstairs. Other times I'll come downstairs first, then go back upstairs. When I come into my study, I look at my deck of cards, which are right here, and it's a deck of affirmation cards. So I will pick an affirmation. And so, for example, the next one on top is, I enjoy people and people enjoy me. They always leave my presence encouraged, energized, and inspired. I feel amazing. I am amazing. I'm ready for anything. Life only gets better. So that would be the one that I would have picked tomorrow morning because it's on top. And I just put this one on the bottom and I just picked the next one the next day. So I'm going to keep this one for tomorrow morning because it's a really, really good one.
It is a good one.
And so again, I affirm. And then I go into, I've got a couple of different devotional books that I use. So I can just pick them here. I wasn't ready for that, but I'm at home, so it's easy. This is a one-year devotional prayer book. So I'll pick something out of this book and read, a couple pages, or I'll read the intellectual devotional. This was actually a gift given to me by Dr. Michael Longyear, who's the director of our Neurolife Institute at Life.
Nice.
And I learned about people of the world and what they've contributed. I have another one that is, Walk Through the Word. So all these books sit right here between two bookends so that I have easy access to them. There's about a dozen books there. I just picked sort of three of my favorites. And then another one that I really like to read from is John Maxwell's book on leadership. So 365-day leadership. So I picked something to read. And
yeah.
It might be a page, it might be two, it might be three. Once I've done that, then I go back there, and pick one of the green books. I've got the entire collection. About half the collection is here, but half the collection is at my office at Life University. And I will pick a green book and I'll read 5, 10 pages, whatever it is. And you know what's interesting? It's always what I needed to read that day. And I didn't know that, right?
Oh, what a coincidence.
I just reached back, I grabbed something, I opened the book and I was like, wow, this is powerful. This is what I needed to learn today. And so I learn. And then often, not daily, but often, I'll share one of my affirmation cards on social media because I think it helps some people. But I will tell you that since social media, I always go to my Facebook page after that and I look to see whose birthday it is. And I take the time to wish people happy birthday. Some of the people on my Facebook page are acquaintances. Some of them are dear friends. When they're dear friends, they can expect a phone call. If I get their voicemail, I will sing them happy birthday, and or I'll send them a text. But I do my best to actually chat with them. Why would I do that? Well, think of my purpose statement. The pledge of my life, my greatest expression of love and service for the benefit of humanity. And to many people, their birthday is really, really important. So there were 3 people today that I actually called, one on FaceTime, and the other one called me back and I had a voice call. Jeff Hayes, for those of you who know the movie producer, Jeff Hayes, who produced Doctored, Undoctored, Bought, etc. It was Jeff's birthday today. Happens to be the same day as my 4-year-old grandson today. So I call people and I take that time to just connect with people.
Yeah.
Because it fits, right?
Well, it's that first principle. What's the first technique?
Yeah, exactly. Love and service is the first technique. So,
if there's ever a technique all of us need to continuously have at the forefront of our mind, right? It's loving. And I put in the comments, I think it's so important when we start by, I greet this day with love in my heart. Let's remember that doesn't just start in our practices. It also starts in our homes, right? To just love fully those who are in our homes as well. I watched a Facebook Live of somebody who was saying they were so excited, say they're going to get a bunch of stuff done, and then they'd be able to do what they really love, be with their family. I'm like, whoa, we really love all that we've created, right? We love being in our practice and love being at home with our family. I love my practice members and I love my family. And I think it's so important to give fully of ourselves in both because that's who we are. That's the purpose that we live with.
Absolutely.
That's the habit that we do through life. And I want to go back and just touch on the spontaneity for a minute. And I love that you said, like, when we create a ritual, that actually creates the space for spontaneity. So for those who like to, like, just wing it, you'll be able to better wing it when you've created that space, because then you get great results and have way more fun, because you don't get caught up in that habitual thinking of I'm missing out on something, or I didn't get certain things done, in which case then many times we miss the joy of the moment when our mind is thinking about what we didn't do or what we haven't experienced yet. So
I'll tell you,
love
my life is very scheduled, and it's scheduled because it allows me spontaneity.
yes.
Right? So the things that must happen today, they all get scheduled in. But there are spots that are available to go, oh my gosh, Barbara just called. I can call her right now. She thinks I'm not going to be able to call her for 3 days. I've got 5 minutes. I'm just going to reach out. You know what I mean? So I've got that level of spontaneity because the day starts off so well organized, and I'm 100% ready when I start to serve. I don't have to try to get myself ready. I don't have to try to put myself in a good mood. I don't have to try anything. And it was that way when I was in practice. So in practice, my ritual then went to getting to the office, before everybody else, or at least, with at the same time as my front desk manager, and at least 30 minutes before the first patient was going to come in. And I would go into room 1, and I would pop the drops, and I just prepare myself physically. Even if I'd done push-ups, sit-ups, or whatever I'd done at home, I then put my brain into now serving a patient from a chiropractor's perspective. So, how you're preparing your mind and how you're preparing your heart actually matters. So I always start by preparing my heart first, which is really the ritual I shared with you. It's preparing this to be wide open and able to give. And by the way, when you learn to give that way, you get to the point in your life where you can also receive, where you become willing to receive. It's okay to receive. There's no harm in receiving. It's okay to ask questions. There's no crazy question. It's okay to ask for help. I'm okay with all that. I have no problem calling people and asking for help. I do it every day. Ask for help on this, ask for help for that. A while ago, I had somebody reach out to me, asking me for something. It's like, you know what? I don't know the answer, but I know somebody I think knows the answer. So let me clue you in on a text, or copy you in on a text. And I sent a text to my friend who I thought might know the answer, and the friend that had asked me the question. And now they're chatting, because I saw a couple things pop up now, because I said, I don't know the answer to your question, but I think Jason knows the answer to your question. So let me connect you with Jason. And that stuff like that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And so, when that morning ritual is done, then you go on your day. And if you ever feel yourself falling off a little bit, I've got 2 things that I do. One is stop, recite my purpose statement, and ask myself, am I living this to my full ability right now? If I'm not, why not? And what's it going to take to get me back there? That happens in seconds, honestly, because I've done it so many times.
Yeah.
And the other one is the ritual of literally having a gratitude stone. And mine are the ones I give out, all heart-shaped, multiple colors. I have a stack, like I said, usually in my pocket, and I just allow people to choose one. A patient sitting in that doctor's office yesterday, started having a great conversation with her. She was there getting adjusted with her 2 4-year-old twins. We started having a conversation, and she was so loving and kind, and talked about her discovery about chiropractic, how it changed her life and her children's life, and how she's referred her entire family to this doctor, da, 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 da. And I was just called to offer her a gratitude stone. I said, I'm so grateful to hear this from you. And I'm so grateful that you've been willing to share your story with me, and that you share it with people in your community and your family, that you're here with your children, and that you're promoting really great health through chiropractic care. I said, have you ever heard of the term gratitude stone? She said, no. So I explained to her what it was. It's a metaphor, right? It's a $1 piece of stone. It has nothing to do with the cost. It has everything to do with the value. And I said, I'm being called to offer you one. Would you like one? And I put my hand in my pocket, and I had 6 or 7 of them. And I just opened my hand. And this is what I saw. She was like, oh my gosh, I can take one of those? I said, of course, I'm offering you one. And then she took one. And she had a jacket on, and she says, it belongs here. And she pulled down the zipper. She had a chest pocket right here by her heart, and she put it inside her chest pocket.
I love that.
Right? And I've handed them to all sorts of people who had tears when I gave them to them. So does it fit with my purpose?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So find a purpose that fits you and find actions that actually fit your purpose. You know, another one of my great mentors was Wayne Dyer. I miss that guy like every day. And I read something from Wayne probably every evening. It becomes part of my evening ritual. I've got a big text of Wayne. I'll pick up and read a couple pages. Not every night, but most nights. And Wayne had multiple mentors and many that he never met because they were dead before he ever learned about them. But he would read what they had written. And one of the lessons I learned from Wayne that he had learned from an ancient philosopher by the name of Patanjali. Apparently, at one point, Patanjali, I was asked a question: why is having a purpose for your life so important? He went on to say, because purpose inspires you. And when you're inspired by some grand purpose, your thoughts break their bonds, your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction. Now I'm going to forget the next line. Hang on a second. This is important.
Okay.
I usually know it all by heart, and for some reason my mind just had
No problem.
mind fart. But I did quote him in a book that I wrote a number of years ago called The Art of Responsibility. It's on page, I remember it's on page 25. He says, yeah, your thoughts transcend their bonds, your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction. You find yourself in this new, great, wonderful world where dormant forces, faculties, and come alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamt possible. So think about that. When you're on purpose, your thoughts break their bonds. How many of you have ever been held in bondage by your thoughts? Everybody, right? He said, your mind transcends limitations. How many of you ever heard this little voice in the back say, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? You're not tall enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not fast enough. You're not strong enough. You're not whatever not enough. And it's all bullshit. That you're allowing yourself to hear and that you're taken in. If you believe that you were made in God's image, there is no garbage in there. It's all good, but you have to start seeing the good. And discovering your purpose is part of that, which is why Patanjali went on to say, and then your consciousness expands in every direction. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive. He didn't say you discover new ones. They're already there. Mm-hmm. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive. You already have the talent that you need to live the life that you want to live. That's my understanding. In my 66 years of life so far, that's my understanding. And so when I look at that, and then he says, you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamt possible, none of this has anything to do with ego. This is not based on ego. This is based on possibility, that you were made great. And when you start to understand that and accept that, then you start to teach that to other people. Mm-hmm. And certainly for the chiropractors listening in, wouldn't it be wonderful when you got to that space that you start helping other people see how great they are? Because, you know, when I talk about, so many people talk about, oh, that's a chiropractic miracle. And I was like, no, it's not. There's no such thing as a chiropractic miracle, in my opinion. The miracle is the person laying on your table, that they were given the ability to heal, that every organic system in the universe is conscious, self-developing, self-maintaining, self-healing. That's the freaking miracle. And what we do as chiropractors is look for the interference, correct the interference, and allow that greatness to exude from every human being.
That was always there from the beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just allows it to exude because it was already there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's dormant, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Gilles, thank you so much. This was a wonderful conversation, and it's always great to chat with you, whether face-to-face, over the phone, or here live with everyone else. Thanks for taking your time to inspire us and just share some of your love and genius with the rest of us. So
And
thank you.
I never say no to an invitation when I can fit it into my schedule. And I tell people, well, number one, it totally fits my purpose statement to be able
Yeah.
to sit here with you for half an hour. So I said, might be a little bit selfish, but I'm really here to serve. But then it feels good because I'm actually getting to live my purpose. So
Yep.
it's really a symbiotic relationship, right?
Yep.
I come on with you or others, and I serve based on what you're asking me to talk about. And then at the end, it serves me to live my purpose. So imagine if everybody got to live their life that way.
Right.
If you
We
got so
can.
clear with your purpose
Right.
that you just get to live it every day, and you can. It's available to you.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Love
God
you.
bless you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Rest of your evening. Be safe if you're out in those cold climates, well, warm climates that are experiencing cold weather and driving in conditions you haven't. Just give yourself some extra time.
You got it.
There's always plenty of space to go slow. See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.